I have the man, the success, and the penthouse overlooking San Francisco Bay. 3 years ago at my company's biggest charity gala, she smiled in front of 200 people and said, "Poor Sophia, 34 and still married to your work." Meanwhile, I'm planning a destination wedding with Ryan. Guess some of us just know how to keep a man. I smiled back that night. A real smile. Because standing beside me, his hand resting protectively on the small of my back, was Alexander Chen, the tech entrepreneur whose company had just been valued at $800 million. The man who'd beaten Ryan's law firm in the biggest acquisition deal of the year. She recognized him the moment I called him over. Her champagne glass trembled in her hand, her smile vanished. Her entire face went pale. But I should start at the beginning. Christina had been my best friend since freshman year at Berkeley. We'd survived late-night study sessions, terrible boyfriends, and the brutal architecture program together. She was the sister I'd never had. The person I called first with good news. The one who held my hand through my mother's cancer treatments. 20 years of friendship, built on what I thought was unshakable trust. When I met Ryan Mitchell 3 years ago at a legal conference for my firm, I thought I'd found everything. He was a senior partner at Morrison & Hayes, one of San Francisco's most prestigious law firms. Confident, articulate, ambitious. He wore custom suits and knew how to order wine. My father, before he passed, would have approved. Christina lit up every time I mentioned Ryan's name. She'd lean forward, asking endless questions about our dates, our plans, our future. I thought she was just being supportive. Excited for me. She'd always been unlucky in love, cycling through relationships that never quite worked out. I wanted her to see that good men existed, that love was possible. Looking back now, I can see the signs I missed. The way she'd touch Ryan's arm when she laughed at his jokes, her fingers lingering just a moment too long. How she'd insist on sitting next to him at dinners, finding excuses to lean close. The time she showed up at my apartment in a new dress, asking if it looked good, right before she knew Ryan was coming over. I remember telling myself she just wanted to be included. That she was lonely. That I was lucky to have a best friend who got along so well with my boyfriend. God, I was so naive. The night I discovered the truth started like any other. I'd been working late at the firm, finishing the final drawings for a mixed-use development project that could make my career. It was nearly midnight when I realized I'd left my presentation notes at home. Ryan had a key to my apartment. He'd offered to grab them and meet me at the office. But when I called to check on him, his phone went straight to voicemail. Then Christina's did too. A cold feeling settled in my stomach. The kind of instinct you try to ignore because acknowledging it means your world is about to shatter. I drove to my apartment. Ryan's car was parked outside. So was Christina's. I found them in my living room. On my couch. Her legs were draped across his lap, his hand on her thigh. They weren't having sex, but they didn't need to be. The intimacy in their posture, the way they looked at each other, told me everything. They didn't hear me come in at first. I stood there, frozen, listening to Christina say, "We just have to be careful until after the wedding. Once you're married, we can figure it out. Sophia will be so busy with her career, she'll never notice." Ryan laughed. Actually laughed. "She's already so busy. Last Tuesday she worked until 10. I told her I had a client dinner, and we had 3 hours at my place." The presentation folder slipped from my hands. The sound echoed in the sudden silence. Christina's face went white. Ryan stood up so fast he nearly knocked her over. They both started talking at once, words tumbling over each other. Explanations, excuses, justifications. It didn't matter. I couldn't hear them over the roaring in my ears. I told them to get out. My voice was calm. Too calm. The kind of calm that comes right before you shatter. Christina tried to grab my arm. "Soph, please, let me explain. It just happened. We didn't mean for it to. Get out of my apartment." I pulled away from her touch. "Both of you." Ryan had the audacity to look hurt. "Sophia, if you'd just listen." I said get out. They left. I locked the door behind them, slid down to the floor, and finally let myself break. The next morning, I called off the wedding. Ryan sent flowers with a note begging for another chance. Christina sent 17 text messages, each more desperate than the last. I blocked them both. I threw myself into work because work was the only thing that made sense anymore. Buildings had structure, logic, rules you could follow to create something beautiful. People were chaos. My senior partner, Margaret Chen, noticed something was wrong during a meeting. After everyone else left, she asked if I was okay. I told her the abbreviated version. She listened without interrupting, then said something I'll never forget. The best revenge is a life well lived, Sophia. Show them what they lost. I decided to take her advice. 6 months passed. I threw myself into projects with an intensity that bordered on obsession. I won a regional design award. I was promoted to junior partner. At 34, I was one of the youngest partners in the firm's history. But the architecture community in San Francisco is small. Intimate. I couldn't avoid Christina forever. We had mutual friends, mutual professional connections. She worked in interior design, so our paths crossed at industry events. The first time I saw her after the breakup was at a gallery opening. She was wearing a diamond on her left hand. Ryan's ring. I felt sick, but I held my head high and walked right past her without acknowledgement. The second time was worse. It was at a networking event for the city's annual charity gala, a black tie affair where everyone who was anyone showed up to see and be seen. The event raised millions for children's hospitals. Our firm was a major sponsor, and I'd been chosen to represent us on the planning committee. Christina cornered me by the bar. She looked different. Thinner. More polished. Her hair was professionally styled, her dress clearly expensive. Ryan's money, I thought bitterly. Sophia. Her voice was tentative. I've been hoping we could talk. There's nothing to talk about. I ordered a vodka tonic, not looking at her. I know you're angry. I'm not angry, Christina. I'm done. I took my drink and walked away, feeling her eyes on my back. I should mention that during these 6 months I'd gone to therapy. Dr. Martinez helped me understand that Christina's betrayal hurt worse than Ryan's because I'd lost more than a relationship. I'd lost 20 years of friendship. The person I trusted most in the world had looked me in the eye, hugged me, asked about my wedding plans, all while sleeping with my fiancé. Dr. Martinez also helped me work through my trust issues. She encouraged me to stay open to new relationships, even though I felt like I'd never trust anyone again. That's how I met Alexander. It was at a coffee shop near my firm, 3 weeks before the charity gala. I was working on my laptop, and he sat down at the table next to mine. His phone rang. He silenced it, apologized for the noise, and went back to his own work. 15 minutes later, it rang again. He looked frustrated but answered this time. I couldn't help overhearing his side of the conversation, something about investors, a product launch, timeline concerns. He sounded stressed but patient, explaining complex technical concepts in simple terms. When he hung up, he caught me looking. Sorry about that. Hazard of being in tech. The fires never stop. No apology necessary. Hazard of being an architect. The deadlines never stop either. I gestured to my laptop screen, covered in CAD drawings. He smiled. It was a nice smile. Genuine. Alexander Chen. Sophia Rivera. We started talking. Just casual conversation at first, but it flowed naturally. He was funny without trying too hard, smart without being condescending. He asked about my work with actual interest, not the polite but glazed-over expression I usually got when I mentioned architecture. An hour passed. Then 2. By the time we both realized we'd been talking instead of working, the sun was setting. This might be forward, he said, but could I take you to dinner sometime? I promise my phone will be on silent. I hesitated. Every instinct told me to say no. To protect myself. To never trust anyone enough to get hurt again. But Dr. Martinez's voice was in my head. Don't let fear write your story, Sophia. I'd like that, I heard myself say. Our first date was at a small Italian restaurant in North Beach. Alexander showed up in jeans and a blazer, refreshingly underdressed compared to Ryan's constant need to showcase status. We talked for 4 hours. He told me about growing up in San Jose, about his parents' restaurant, about teaching himself to code as a kid. About dropping out of Stanford to start his first company at 22. It failed spectacularly, he said with a laugh. Lost everything. Moved back in with my parents. Spent a year working at their restaurant, trying to figure out what I'd done wrong. What did you do? Started another company. Applied everything I'd learned. It worked that time. He smiled, but there was humility in it. I got lucky. I doubt luck had much to do with it. He asked about my work, and I found myself telling him about the mixed-use development project. How it combined affordable housing with commercial space, using sustainable design principles. How it could change how people thought about urban development. You light up when you talk about your work, he observed. It's beautiful. No one had ever said that to me before. We dated for 2 months before I told him about Ryan and Christina. We were having dinner at his place, and he'd noticed me tense up when my phone buzzed with a message from a mutual friend mentioning Christina's engagement party. You don't have to tell me, he said gently. But if you want to, I'm listening. So I told him. Everything. The betrayal. The humiliation. The way I still flinched when I saw them at events. How I felt like I'd never fully trust anyone again. Alexander listened without judgment. When I finished, he reached across the table and took my hand. I'm glad they were stupid enough to lose you, he said. Because otherwise, I never would have met you. It was exactly what I needed to hear. Around this time, I started hearing whispers at industry events. Ryan's law firm was struggling. They'd lost a major client to a competitor in a high-stakes acquisition deal. The rumor was that Morrison and Hayes had underestimated the competition and got completely outmaneuvered. I didn't think much of it until Margaret pulled me aside one afternoon. That acquisition deal that Morrison and Hayes lost? She had a knowing look. Alexander Chen's company was on the other side. His in-house legal team apparently demolished their arguments. Ryan Mitchell was lead counsel for Morrison and Hayes. My stomach flipped. Alexander never mentioned it. Would you want him to? Margaret asked gently. He probably didn't want you to think he was dating you because of some connection to your ex. She was right. When I asked Alexander about it that night, he confirmed the deal but downplayed his involvement. It was business, he said. I didn't even know Ryan was your ex until weeks later when I Googled your firm and saw old engagement announcement articles. I almost told you then, but he hesitated. I didn't want you to think I was using you, or that I saw you as revenge against him. You're not a pawn in anyone's game, Sophia. What we have has nothing to do with your past. I believed him. Because by then I knew Alexander. Knew his integrity. Knew he wasn't the type to play games. The charity gala was approaching. My firm had a table, and as junior partner, I was expected to bring a guest. I asked Alexander. He said yes without hesitation. Should I wear a tux? He asked. It's black tie. Then I'll wear a tux. He pulled me close. I'm looking forward to showing you off. I didn't tell him that Christina and Ryan would be there. I told myself it didn't matter. That I was over it. That seeing them wouldn't affect me. I was lying to myself. The night of the gala, I spent 2 hours getting ready. I chose a midnight blue gown that my stylist said made me look like old Hollywood elegance. Professional makeup. Hair in an elegant updo. When Alexander picked me up, his eyes widened. You're stunning, he said softly. You clean up pretty well yourself. He looked incredible in his tuxedo. Confident. Powerful. Like he belonged at events like this. The gala was held at the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art. The atrium was transformed with lighting, flowers, and dozens of round tables draped in white linens. A string quartet played in the corner. Champagne flowed freely. The city's elite mingled, air-kissing and making small talk. I saw Christina the moment we walked in. She was wearing red, a bold choice that made her stand out. Ryan stood beside her, looking uncomfortable in his tux. When Christina's eyes landed on me, her expression shifted. Surprise, then something calculating. She whispered something to Ryan and started walking toward us. Sophia. Her voice was bright, artificial. Oh my God, you look amazing. It's been so long. I kept my face neutral. Christina. I've missed you so much. She was laying it on thick. I know things ended badly, but I've been hoping we could reconnect. Life's too short to hold grudges, right? Alexander's hand moved to the small of my back. Protective, supportive. Christina's eyes flicked to him, then back to me. Aren't you going to introduce me to your date? Before I could respond, Ryan joined us. His face was carefully blank, but I saw the flicker of recognition when he looked at Alexander. They'd been on opposite sides of that acquisition deal. They knew each other, at least professionally. Ryan Mitchell. He extended his hand to Alexander. I don't believe we've met formally. Alexander Chen. They shook hands. I watched Ryan's face carefully. Was that surprise? Or had he already known? Christina was still smiling at me. So when did you two start dating? I had no idea you were seeing someone, Soph. The nickname made my skin crawl. She hadn't earned the right to use it anymore. We've been together for a few months, I said simply. How lovely. Her voice was saccharine. You know, Ryan and I are getting married in 2 months, destination wedding in Italy. It's going to be incredible. She held up her left hand, making sure I saw the ring. We would have invited you, but obviously the guest list is just close friends and family. The dig was subtle but clear. You're not close anymore. You don't matter. I felt Alexander's hand press more firmly against my back. A reminder that I wasn't alone. Congratulations, I said evenly. Christina's smile sharpened. Thank you. You know, I worried about you after everything happened. Being alone at your age can be hard. The dating pool gets so much smaller after 35. Her eyes traveled over me, assessing. But it looks like you're doing okay. Bringing dates to events. That's good. It's important to put yourself out there, even if nothing serious comes of it. The implication was clear. Alexander was just a date. Nothing serious. Nothing that could compete with her engagement to Ryan. Ryan looked uncomfortable. Christina. I'm just being honest, she said, still smiling at me. Sophia knows I've always cared about her happiness. It just worried me, you know? Seeing her alone at all these events for months. I was concerned. She turned to Alexander, her expression sympathetic. You have to understand, Sophia's always been so focused on her career. It's admirable, really, but it can make relationships difficult. She works such long hours. I felt heat rising in my face. She was trying to undermine me in front of Alexander. Make me seem like damaged goods. A workaholic who couldn't maintain relationships. Alexander's voice cut through the tension, calm and pleasant. Actually, I find Sophia's dedication to her work incredibly attractive. She's passionate, talented, and brilliant. I'm lucky she makes time for me between projects. Christina's smile faltered slightly. Oh, of course. I didn't mean. And we're not dating casually, he continued smoothly. I'm in love with her. Have been for weeks. I'm just waiting for the right moment to tell her properly. My heart stopped. He just said he loved me, in front of Christina and Ryan. At this gala, Christina's face went through several emotions: surprise, disbelief, then something ugly and petty. How sweet, she managed. New love is always so intense, isn't it? I'm sure it feels very real. It is real, Alexander said quietly. His hand moved from my back to take my hand, interlacing our fingers. Now, if you'll excuse us, I believe they're calling everyone to their tables. He guided me away, leaving Christina standing there with her mouth slightly open. We made it to our table before I could fully process what had just happened. Alexander pulled out my chair, then leaned down to whisper in my ear. I meant every word, he said softly. I was going to tell you over a private dinner this weekend, but seeing her try to tear you down. He shook his head. I couldn't let her think she had any power over you. Because she doesn't, Sophia. You're extraordinary. I turned to look at him, this man who'd somehow slipped past all my defenses. I love you too, I whispered back. His smile was radiant. The rest of the gala was a blur. Dinner, speeches, the charity auction. I was hyper-aware of Christina watching us from across the room. Every time I glanced her way, she was staring. Ryan looked increasingly uncomfortable beside her. During the auction, Alexander bid on and won a vacation package to Tuscany. For our honeymoon, he said casually, then froze. I mean, that was presumptuous. I haven't even. Ask me, I said. What? Ask me properly later, with a ring and everything. But I'm saying yes now. He kissed me right there, in front of 200 people. I heard someone gasp, heard the whispers starting. Didn't care. When the auction ended, I excused myself to use the restroom. Christina was waiting in the lounge area. I need to talk to you, she said. Her confident facade from earlier was cracking. Alone. I don't think. Please. Soph. 5 minutes. Against my better judgment, I nodded. She waited until we were alone before speaking. Alexander Chen. You're dating Alexander Chen. I'm engaged to him, actually. Her face went pale. Do you have any idea who he is? My fiancé? He's worth hundreds of millions of dollars, Sophia. His company just went through a Series C funding round. He's one of the most eligible bachelors in Silicon Valley. Her voice rose. And you just found him? At a coffee shop? Yes. That's... She laughed, but it sounded desperate. That's not fair. What's not fair? You were supposed to be alone. You were supposed to realize what you lost. You were supposed to... She cut herself off, pressing her fingers to her temples. God. Do you know what my life has been like? Ryan's firm is hemorrhaging clients. We had to postpone the wedding twice because of money. He's stressed all the time. Angry. He takes it out on me. That's not my problem, Christina. I know. She looked at me with tears in her eyes. I know it's not. But I thought I was getting everything. The successful man, the money, the life I wanted. And instead, I got. She gestured helplessly. This. And you got Alexander Chen. How is that justice? Justice? I stared at her. You destroyed a 20-year friendship and stole my fiancé. You don't get to talk to me about justice. I didn't mean for it to happen. Yes, you did. My voice was quiet but firm. You chose this, Christina. Every time you flirted with him. Every time you showed up at my apartment. Every time you texted him behind my back. Those were choices. She wiped at her eyes, smearing her mascara. I was jealous, okay? You always had everything so together. The perfect career, the perfect life. I wanted what you had. So you took it. And I got exactly what I deserved, she said bitterly. A man who cheats, who lies, who only wanted me because I was convenient. She looked at me. Do you know what he said last week? He said he missed you. That you were smarter than me, more interesting. That he made a mistake. He's right. He did make a mistake, but not the one he thinks. She blinked. What do you mean? His mistake was thinking people are interchangeable. That he could trade up or down based on convenience. That's not love, Christina. That's... I searched for the word. Possession. And Alexander? What's he? He's a partner, an equal, someone who respects what I do and who I am. I looked at her, this woman who'd been my best friend for 2 decades. I'm sorry your relationship isn't working out. Genuinely. But I can't fix that for you. And I can't go back to being your friend. Why not? Her voice broke. Why can't we move past this? Because I don't trust you anymore. And friendship without trust is just going through motions. I left her standing there and returned to the gala. Alexander saw my face and immediately stood. Everything okay? Can we go? I asked quietly. Of course. We said our goodbyes and left early. In the car, Alexander drove in comfortable silence until I was ready to talk. She wanted to know why I ended up with you, I finally said. What did you tell her? That you're my partner. That you respect me. I looked at him. That you're nothing like Ryan. He reached over and took my hand. I'm sorry you had to see them tonight. I'm not. I laced my fingers through his. For months I've been dreading running into them. Afraid it would hurt. Afraid I'd feel like I lost something valuable. I squeezed his hand. But standing there tonight, with your hand on my back, watching Christina try so desperately to make me feel small, I realized I dodged a bullet. 2 bullets, actually. Best thing they ever did was show you their true colors before you married into it. Exactly. I smiled. And if they hadn't imploded my life, I never would have been in that coffee shop the day I met you. 3 months later, we got married. Small ceremony, just close family and friends. Margaret Chen was there, beaming like a proud parent. My therapist sent a card that said, "Told you staying open was worth it." Christina sent a gift, expensive crystal vases. I donated them to a charity auction. I didn't want reminders in my home. Ryan tried to call once, a few weeks after our wedding. I didn't answer. Alexander asked if I wanted him to handle it. I said no. Some doors need to stay closed. The last I heard through the grapevine, Christina and Ryan did eventually get married. A small courthouse ceremony, nothing like the Italian destination wedding she'd planned. They moved to Sacramento for Ryan's new job at a smaller firm. I hope they found happiness, genuinely, not for their sake but for mine. Because holding on to anger and bitterness would only poison my own life. Dr. Martinez helped me understand that forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation. It means releasing the power their betrayal had over me. It means choosing to focus on the future I'm building rather than the past they destroyed. I still see them occasionally at industry events. We exchange polite nods. Nothing more. Christina's face always holds this wistful expression, like she's mourning what we used to have. Maybe she is. But that friendship died the night I found them together, and you can't resurrect something that's already been buried. My life now is fuller than I ever imagined. Alexander and I just celebrated our first anniversary. We bought a house in Pacific Heights with a view of the Golden Gate Bridge. I made senior partner at my firm. We're talking about starting a family. Sometimes, late at night, I think about that version of myself who walked into her apartment and found her best friend with her fiancé. The woman who thought her world was ending. I want to go back and tell her that this isn't the end. It's a beginning disguised as an ending. The best revenge really is a life well lived. Not because it hurts the people who wronged you, but because it proves they never had the power to break you in the first place. Christina taught me an important lesson, though not the one she intended. She taught me that some people view relationships as competitions, that there will always be someone who wants what you have, not because it's actually better, but because it belongs to you. The difference between Christina and me is simple. I learned to build my own happiness. She's still trying to steal someone else's. And honestly, I don't waste energy hating her anymore. Hatred requires emotional investment, and she's not worth it. Instead, I focus on gratitude, for Alexander, who loves me without keeping score. For Margaret, who gave me solid advice when I needed it most. For Dr. Martinez, who helped me heal. For the career I've built through my own hard work. The woman I am now is stronger than the woman I was 3 years ago. Not because of what Christina did, but because of how I chose to respond to it. I chose growth over bitterness, love over fear, my future over my past. That's the real victory. Not the penthouse or the successful husband or the thriving career. Those are just bonuses. The real victory is knowing that I can trust my own judgment again. That I can open my heart without being paralyzed by fear. That I'm not defined by their betrayal. I'm defined by how I rebuilt myself after they tried to tear me down. And that's something Christina can never take away from me. No matter how much she might wish she could.